Hi everybody, it's me Willow and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm here with another fun video for all of you guys to enjoy. Today we'll be talking about season 1 of Off Campus, which is a new Prime Video TV series out. It dropped on Wednesday the 13th and I was able to finish it all in the weekend, and I am guilty pleasure really a fan of the show. It kind of reminds me of some of my other guilty pleasure shows like Ginny and Georgia on Netflix, and also The Summer I Turned Pretty from another Prime Video television show. It also really reminded me of the Netflix movie To All the Boys I Had Loved Before. Definitely like the whole like fake relationship that we go on in this series is very reminiscent to that movie. So, kind of similar vibes to those series, those film, and not necessarily the most like, I don't know, high academic level of show. Definitely one where you can just kind of like relax and turn your mind off a little bit. But that doesn't mean there's not like serious moments in this series either. And that definitely caught me a little bit off guard and made me lean into the show a bit more because it really dives deep into the trauma and the emotions of our characters, which is something I appreciated. And before we dive into the spoiler review, I want you guys to hit the subscribe button and the post notification button so you don't miss out on any of my reviews going forward. I'm covering Euphoria season 3 right now and The Testament season 1. They're both almost about to wrap up, and I'm going to be starting to follow the Vampire Lestat when it begins in June, and I'll be doing kind of like rewind of season 1, season 2 of The Interview with a Vampire. That's my plan to get that out in the next couple weeks before Vampire Lestat comes out. And I also post film reviews every week and pop culture content. So if you're subscribed and have post notifications on, you won't miss out on any of that future content. I'm also on the major social media platforms at Willow D Steele. So go give me a follow and engage with all my platforms. I'm really grateful for all the support. So let's dive into the spoiler review. The Off Campus TV series is based off the Off Campus series, which is written by Ella Kennedy. We have the deal, the mistake, the score, the goal, and the legacy. I've not read any of these books, so I kind of dived into this based off a lot of the recommendations after Heated Rivalry really picked up in November, December, January, and like till now in mid May. That show, the hockey smut of it all, was really, it's everywhere, and it still is right now. As a Canadian in Canada, it was also a really big show for us. And Off Campus is actually filmed in Toronto, and or filmed in Vancouver, actually, I think. It might be a little bit in Toronto and Vancouver. I actually think it might be Vancouver, but another Canadian production. It is an American, like distributed, like American technically production, but it was filmed in Canada with the Canadian crew. We had a Canadian costume designer, which I saw on a panel at TIFF Next Wave a couple weeks ago, and that was super cool to get to hear from her before I get to see the series. We have a lot of Canadian actors in here as well, so love that. That's probably the main reason why I wanted to watch the show. Just the reaction, my love for Heated Rivalry. I wanted to see if this hits home. Definitely think it hits a sweet spot. I don't think necessarily lives up to Heated Rivalry in my opinion. I don't really always like. I do love me a good straight romance, but I always lean more towards the queer romances more. I find those a little bit more compelling and more interesting, a little bit more meatier a lot of the time. I find straight relationships to be really one noted and like surface level, but I feel like this one really dives deep, and we have two characters who dive into a lot of trauma from their past, and they're able to come together and see that they can help make each other better people. And I think it's really interesting to see that. It's also like a university based story, which I appreciate. We have a little bit more, grown adults here. They're still like young adults, but I love this wave of kind of like young adult drama shows coming out. As somebody who has been out of university for 3 years coming up now in June, I can't believe it. I graduated in 2023 for my BA. It's nice to see more like young adult dramas as I'm 25 now, so I definitely am like older than what these people are supposed to be. They're like supposed to be like 22, 23, but it's still very relatable. So I love having these rather than just always having our shows like featured in high school. I think there's a lot more we can do. Obviously, the show has like a lot of sex in it, so it makes sense to have it set in college rather than high school. But then again, Euphoria, Skins, all of that had a lot of sex and drugs and all that stuff, and it was in high school, but I do like having it in college. So that's another benefit in my mind. So why don't we dive into our characters? I think I'm going to go one by one. I feel like that's the best way to organize it. And of course, we have to start with our two leads. So our main leader of the show is Hannah Wells, and she's played by Ella Bright. And she is from The Crown. She played young Kate Middleton. That's where I know her from. She's also been in a couple other films. She was in like a Will Ferrell film as well a couple years ago. But it seems like a lot of the people on this show have maybe done like one or two major projects, but they're still very much at the beginning of the career. So I love that. This show will hopefully propel them. And I definitely think we're going to see Ella Bright in a lot of different stuff coming forward. She's just very compelling. I think she's super charming. I definitely relate to Hannah. I feel like she is very much kind of an outsider at the beginning of the show. She's had a rough past, kind of like a hidden past. Everybody has a secret here. We get Dirty Little Secret is like a karaoke song that gets played maybe halfway through the season, and it's literally the perfect theme for the show because everybody has a dirty little secret, every single person. And it's revealed that in high school Hannah was sexually assaulted by a hockey player at her high school. She was in the band. He's a hockey player, and apparently he was the mayor's son as well. So when she came forward about it and they had to do the whole police interrogation and then they eventually went to court, his whole hockey team testified against Hannah, and the whole city and team rallied towards this hockey player and rallied against Hannah and her family and really made her feel like this wrong person even though she was the victim. And this is a complex that we really deal with Hannah throughout the whole series, and she has this beautiful conversation with her mom over the phone. And I think it was the last episode after she's really dealing with the PTSD of her sexual assault when she comes face to face with with the perpetrator, and she kind of has like this panic attack, and her mom's like, why are you like apologizing? Why do you feel guilty? Like, what did you do wrong? And Hannah has no answer and is like, well, if you're feeling guilty, obviously you did something wrong. And I think it's just like was a beautiful moment to show victims that you don't need to hold any guilt. Like, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't make our lives more difficult just because you had something bad happen to you and you spoke the truth. I think it was really powerful. I also appreciated that in the beginning of the episodes that dealt more heavily with the sexual assault, they did do kind of like a little trigger warning at the beginning, mentioning RAIN, the organization that helps with sexual assaults. So giving a little bit of some resources for people, which I thought was very much appreciated. I think that's very important as well to have those resources when we're talking about these tough subject matters. I remember, like 13 Reasons Why, having a lot of different, back and forth between why aren't they giving us, resources, and then they eventually move towards that. And I think at the end of the day, if you're bringing these subject matters into art, which is what we should be doing. We should be talking about these things. We should also be providing resources so people can, seek a little bit more knowledge, or if they need some help, they can find those resources, which I think is super important. So I did want to note that. I think that was great that they did that. And Hannah's just very interesting. She's a music major at Breyer University. She's a classical music major, and she's learned that her scholarship is basically just being ripped out of the air. It's not happening anymore. So she needs to kind of transition to pop because there's going to be a showcase coming up for pop performances, and they get a scholarship, whoever gets first place. And the whole goal for Hannah this season is to start writing again, because ever since her assault she stopped writing. She used to be a very big writer in high school, and then during the trauma of having to write everything down during the investigation at the police station, that really stopped her from being able to write any music, which I thought was really well done. Like having that those different scenes all come together and you realize that is why she can't write anymore. I was like, wow, okay, that is smart writing. I really enjoyed that whole through line. I thought visually and how it's delivered from Ella was very well performed, and I was very satisfied with that. I also think it's interesting how she does really well in school, and then she ends up becoming a tutor for Garrett, who Garrett Graham, I'll get into him in just like a moment, but he is like the hockey player, hockey captain of the Briars team, and he's like the popular guy, and he kind of takes her under her wing when they end up having this fake relationship because Hannah wants to impress this guy named Justin, who is this other musician that she has a crush on. They end up working together to help her pop song. He helps make some lyrics. She really doesn't connect. They kind of go back and forth between this relationship. Will they, won't they? And Hannah ends up ending it because I would say Justin's pretty like self-centered. He is played by Josh Houston. I know him from Heartbreak High. I think it's interesting that he was like barely in the last season of Heartbreak High. He kind of came in like halfway point of the season, I believe. And it must have been because he was filming this show. So find that interesting. But yeah, he's in a band and I just find him very like self-centered. He's like the lead singer. He plays a guitar too, I believe, and he does the cover of Dirty Little Secrets during like this karaoke requesting night. And yeah, he helps Hannah with these lyrics, but he doesn't understand that they need to be able to collaborate. And he kind of just takes the whole song for himself, even though it doesn't really connect with Hannah. But he does say something really good to her, is that, of course, the song doesn't sound like her. It's because she refuses to put any of herself into the song. And I think that really clicks for Hannah that, yeah, maybe she did make the melody and she's kind of been feeding to different emotions towards Justin so he can kind of understand how to put this song together. But at the end of the day, he's writing from his emotions and what he knows, and Hannah needs to do the same if she wants to come together with a song that she likes. Okay, so I'll dive into Garrett Graham a little bit. He's played by Belmont Kelmy. I think that's how you say his last name. He has been in quite a bit of stuff. Saved by the Bell remake. He was in Along for the Ride on Netflix. He was in Alto Nights, Until Dawn, which were both out last year. So he's been in quite a bit of stuff, but I would say this is probably his first really big project because all of those things aren't like super big, but he has worked with some pretty well-known people and he's been around in the industry for a little bit. But he is the hockey player, he's the captain, he is number 44, he's the forward starter. He is damn hot. The first time we get to see Garrett is when he is in the locker room and he strips down after a practice and he gets butt ass naked in this locker room, and poor Hannah walks in on him because she has her like headphones on and she works like part-time at the university to help cover costs, I'm pretty sure. And she walks in on him because she doesn't realize he's in there. She's following the trail of like towels left, and so they have like a really awkward run-in, but that's their first time meeting. And then he doesn't do very well in one of his classes. He gets a bad mark on one of his grades, and we learn very early that Garrett is a very like wants to be successful. He doesn't want to just be known for like the hockey guy. He wants to have a good head on his shoulders. And even though maybe like his hockey coach could try and talk to the school and get him to stay on the team because, he's one of the big reasons why the team does so well, he still wants to do it all the right way. He wants to succeed at school and be able to graduate and have an amazing life afterwards. And we start to realize, oh, this is because he feels a lot of pressure from his father to succeed, but also a lot of pressure that he puts on himself to exceed as well. So he ends up getting tutored by Hannah, and he starts to have a fake relationship with her so she can try and impress Justin. And through all of this, he ends up falling head over heels for her. And I love the storyline of him falling first and Hannah kind of just like being aware that he's very attractive, but I think she it has her sights on Justin, and I feel like maybe she thinks he's out of her league. She also was assaulted by a hockey player, so she doesn't have the best opinion about them. But, their relationship starts to grow. They start to trust one another. They both aren't big drinkers. He only has like one drink because he's in hockey season and he doesn't drink on game nights. And Hannah doesn't drink in public or at parties since she was assaulted because it was at a party where she was roofied and then she was assaulted. So she doesn't have good memories with that. And Garrett's able to kind of like take her under his wing and help her feel a little bit more safe and trusted, and says, if you want to drink, I will be sober and watch after you and make sure nothing happens to you or your friends. And I felt that very charming, and I'm like, oh man, like the smallest little thing will just make you appealing these days. It's like so hard for um guys to just do the bare minimum, but I feel like Garrett is a pretty genuine guy, and it's revealed that he's had a pretty tough past with his father, Phil Graham, who's played by Steve Howie, who I know from Shameless. So he was on the Bruins, the Boston Bruins. I believe he was the captain on the team, very famous player. He's not on the team anymore. He's like a retired hockey player trying to live on to the golden days, and it's revealed that growing up, he was very abusive towards Graham as a child, towards Garrett as a child, and his mother. And I can't fully remember. I think they said she was sick, and I don't know if they said it was cancer or something, but his mother died. So then he was left to be raised by his father. And they basically, it's implied that he was put into hockey so the bruises from the abuse would be hidden better because he was in such a on contact violence sport. I thought that was heartbreaking. Very sensitive subject matter. The whole father abuse stuff for me, and I really related to Garrett and the pain, the pressure that he feels and trying to succeed. And is he really happy in life, like with the life that he has currently, and kind of feeling lost throughout the season, and how he's able to find Hannah and they're able to be, brought together and have a really nice and genuine relationship. I think that they both trust each other because we have this crazy episode, is it 3, which is the orgasm, and Hannah's like, before I hook up with Justin, I need you to give me an orgasm so I can have one for the first time and be prepared, which I thought it was like really nice that they were kind of openly talking about that as well, about like female pleasure. I feel like shows often kind of like sideline that or they brush it under the rug, but I love that shows like Heated Rivalry and The Summer I Turned Pretty and Off Campus, they're ready to talk about these bold subject matters, which I think should be more normalized. So I thought it was really nice that they were able to trust each other and do this for one another. Obviously, it doesn't go exactly to plan, but they're still able to get the deed done, maybe if it's just in a little different way. So I do really like this. I guess that can lead me into talking about the sex and the smut in the show. I do think it's pretty well done. I do find it a little cringy, just a little bit. I don't know. It does make me blush, of course, but I did that with Heated Rivalry as well. I think Heated Rivalry was a little bit more intense. Like they were really like going for it, and I felt like every single episode except for the one episode, was it episode like 5 or episode 4? There's like no sex in that scene. But in this series, we have a lot in the beginning half of the series, and then it kind of like dies off in the second half. We do get like lots of different, couples, kind of doing stuff and having different montages. And my favorite thing is that we really do focus on on female pleasure, which I think is perfect, and it's a societal norm that we should definitely move towards more, making it more acceptable and acknowledging it. So and of course, this is like a female reader base as well, so of course they have to kind of appease the fans and what's in the novels. We have to bring that to the screen because that's why it got so popular in the first place, right? Of course, there's such a big intersection of women demographic and like a Harley Quinn romance and just romance in general, and how the Harley Quinn has kind of been turned into like the smut, even like this fantasy smut, like huge franchise, of course, 50 Shades of Grey, and um it's like 365 days, that other show like Netflix. We have like so many I can't even think of, and it's a whole franchise, right? Magic Mike. So very interesting to see. Magic Mike's a little bit more male orientated and the other ones are a little bit more female orientated, but I do think this is a positive. Love seeing this. I'm interested to see where this goes forward in cinema, and if we have I do think there's another show, Sterling Point, which is another like Canadian filmed production going to be on Prime Video. I think it's Catherine. Oh, what's her name? I'm blanking on it. She was just in Ready or Not 2. She was in The Society. She was in Ant-Man and Wasp. Can't remember her last name. Completely blanking on it, but I believe she's going to be in Sterling Point. I think that's also going to be another kind of like cottage smutty type show. So definitely like a huge market for it right now. So really interesting to see that blow up. Of course, we have another relationship with Allie and Dean, and ooh, I love them. I want more of them in season two. We have Allie played by Mika Albadala. Probably mispronounced her name. I know her from Snack Shack. She's great in that movie. If you guys have not seen it, you should go watch it right now. She's also in the pit for an episode. I think just like one episode. I don't really remember her, but I have seen all of the pit. She's just not like, she was like a patient, I believe, so doesn't really click to memory. But she's been in this longer term relationship with this guy named Sean since like her first year of university. They're very codependent. They're often on off, but they always come back together. Then they end up having this big blow up because she really wants to kind of like do some different stuff, maybe different positions, or add some frisky stuff in, or go out to parties more, try some different stuff. And he's very like straight laced, like he's really thinking about his future. He wants to like settle down, work at like his father's like insurance company, I think, and like um I can't remember where it is, like somewhere in like New Jersey, but she's an actress. She wants to be in New York, she wants to be in LA, and he basically says, "Oh, I thought you would like grow out of that. I didn't realize you wanted that as like a full-time career." And that was the moment I was like, "Bye, Sean. We don't need you, Sean." And of course, she pines after him all season, just feeling like a bad person because she wants to hook up with other people, other people being Dean De Laurentiis, who's played by Stefan Kalin. He was on Gen V. He was also on Whistle, which came out earlier this year. He was in Cruel Intentions remake television show. He was on Motorhead. He was on in Paying for It. So he's been in a lot of Canadian productions. All of these are Canadian shot productions. Murdoch Mysteries. So really interesting to see him blow up because I definitely think he was one of the bigger people to be kind of like recognized out of this show just because he is so damn gorgeous. And I really love the character. I was watching this one podcast talking about the rankings of their characters and the books from the series before the show came out, and they were ranking him like last. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. And they're saying he's a player. And I'm like, maybe they make him a little bit more of a player. Like, of course, he is a player in the show. I didn't find that to be a problem, in my opinion. He's a left defenseman, number 66. He's super wealthy. And then he starts, having a little fling with Allie. And while he's with Allie, he ends up not sleeping with anybody else and kind of ends up falling for her. Allie's like, you know what? We can't be just exclusive. We have to be just hooking up, no strings attached, because she is so like fearful about becoming committed to another person because she doesn't think she can be single because Sean kind of manipulated her into thinking that. Of course, she does like Dean, but she can't admit that to herself. So that's something that kind of really frustrated me because it was like a cliffhanger with them, and I just wanted so much more. I think they had episode 4. It was either episode 4, episode 5. Definitely one of my favorite episodes. Super strong. I loved seeing their chemistry. Definitely think they are maybe a little bit more stronger chemistry than Hannah and Garrett on the show. So I definitely hope season 2 is a little bit more forward for them and maybe based off their book. I'd be interested in getting a little bit more development specifically on Dean because there is something lingering with him and how he used to go to this other school. And there's this character named Hunter Davenport who also used to go to that school. He might be joining the hockey team at Briar, and there's something going on with a sister. So I want to know the drama there. I need to have it uncovered. Then we have the Logans, John, and Jules. Honestly, they weren't super appealing to me. I felt like John Logan was actually really annoying. He's played by Antonio Sapernon. Totally butchered that. I think it's Italian. He's been in Also Kings. He was in Pretty Little Liars Original Sin, Sex Lives of College Girls, and he's Garrett's best friend. He's also on the hockey team. He's a star defenseman, number 22. And basically, the only thing about his character is that he's pining for Hannah. They share a kiss. He has this major crush on her, even though she's dating his best friend. So that really kind of annoyed me. He also has a tough relationship with his mom because she's in rehab for what seems like she's been in rehab multiple times in the past. So he doesn't really trust her and has a bad relationship with his mom. He has a sister named Jules, and she runs the Fifth Line account on Instagram, which is like this gossip Briar hockey team account. And it's always posting stuff about the hockey teams and the games and the different players and really just like spreading, rumors and stuff. And that's where Garrett and Hannah get like confirmed for the relationship is on the Fifth Line because it's like, oh, if you're on the Fifth Line, it's true because she doesn't do like fake gossip, she's all truthful with her journalism. But honestly, I found that really annoying. And I know they're trying to do like a social media, like it's a relevant like topic. Of course that happens, in college. There is probably that person who runs like the social media accounts for like the school, but she's like this gossip. I understand what they're going for, but it felt a little primitive to me. I just felt like they didn't really do much with Jules besides that, and the fact that she has a little bit more healthy relationship, more forgiving relationship with her mother, and then the two siblings go to rehab to like give like a Thanksgiving tradition to their mother. And like they obviously have like a good sibling relationship. I just find them they didn't do much with them. I didn't like them. Again, that ranking video that I mentioned, they had ranked John like so high in the rankings. I'm like, okay, they better do major development with him in the next couple seasons because I just find him really annoying, especially after he kind of like double crossed his teammates. One, he was supposed to get, or Garrett was supposed to talk to his dad about donating like merch, something signed towards this charity drive the hockey team always does. He had this big blow up with his dad at Thanksgiving and very like abusive, toxic energy. He didn't want to ask his dad about that. He doesn't want to have a relationship with his dad at all. And John ends up going behind Garrett's back and calls Phil and is like, "Oh, will you do a meet and greet for the charity donation?" And I thought that was completely uncalled for. I know Garrett's very closed off and doesn't want to tell his friend what's happened to him. He wants to keep the whole Phil Graham lore going and keep him, you know, appealing to all of his friends. But I thought that was bad. And then at the end of the season, after Dean says, "Please do not have Hunter join the team," after Garrett is suspended, and then the hockey league announces that the team will have now lost every single game that they've won. They had won like 17 games, had a couple ties. They're now 0-0, all losses because Garrett played with the Bruins like during their practice, even though it was like after practice. But the hockey leagues, well, we didn't know that, and you have to maintain your amateur status, so that like ends up punishing all of the team. So they need like another player because Garrett is on suspended for like 4 games. So they're like, okay, well, let's get Hunter. But Dean and Hunter have this rivalry from the other school that they used to go to, and something going on with like the sisters. And John, after Dean says, do not have him on the team, goes behind his back and invites Hunter to join the team. So yeah, I'm really opposed to John. I don't know how I'm gonna end up liking him next season. They're gonna have to do a lot of character work with him. And same with Jules. I just find her kind of annoying. I don't really love the whole commentary. It's not really appealing to me. So yeah, and then we have John Tucker. I love him. Jalen Thomas Brooks, and he's been in the pit. He's Mateo. We missed him quite a bit in season 2 because he was filming off campus, but he turned up for the night shift in the second half of the season. But I love John Tucker. He doesn't get a whole lot to do in this season, unfortunately. So hopefully they develop him a bit more. He's cute and very like sensitive. He's a chef, so he's always cooking. Really, it seems like he gets really stressed because he wants to be like a perfectionist. We have this great Thanksgiving episode, which I think is my favorite episode of the season. Yeah, I think the Thanksgiving is probably my favorite episode, or episode 7, the whole like hockey game with Delaney and Garrett. I really liked that episode as well. But I love the Thanksgiving episode and just seeing all the friends show up for Friendsgiving, and John has to continue to figure out how to accommodate all the people, and then the turkey blows up in the deep fryer. I loved it. I thought it was perfect. He's a forward. He's number 46. I also thought it was funny that his name is John Tucker because of John Tucker Must Die. So I love that little film type reference, maybe, a nod to that film. So yeah, I love him. I hope they give him more to do next season because I felt like he was very wholesome, very sweet, and I love Jalen from the pit. So they better give him more stuff to do. A couple other characters I wanted to shout out was David, who's played by Braden Scott. He is the music advisor for Hannah, and he has this really beautiful piano scene which helps Hannah to connect to her emotions. It's during her panic attack. She just tries to come into the scene, into the it's like the auditorium to perform, and he's already performing at the piano, and she really relates to his music. She's able to feel the emotion, and I thought it was a really beautiful scene where she was able to kind of open up to him, and he says, I will always be here to advise you and help you and, take a crack at it. And he's able to remind her that she's always been the girl that she was before the assault took place, and that she just has to find that girl once again to be able to write her music, and she's able to use the girl from the past, the girl from the assault, and the girl now to be able to come back into herself and write her music again. So I really liked David. I thought he was a great character. I also liked Dexter. He didn't get like a whole lot of screen time, but I know the actor Miles Gutierrez Riley from The Wild season 2. He's kind of like Hannah's gay best friend. He really has like nothing to do all season, but I just wanted to shout him out because I loved him in The Wilds. He was one of my favorite character in season 2, and such a tragedy that that show got canceled and we'll never figure out what happened in The Wilds. But yeah, I wanted to shout out him because I really liked it. But overall, I thought the show was pretty solid. I would say maybe it was like a 3.5 to a 4 for overall for the season 1. I definitely think some of the writing isn't as strong as it could be, and that's probably the biggest gripe I have. Also, some of the acting, specifically Belmont, which is weird because I feel like he had the most credits out of everybody. Maybe it's because he's like good looking, he's typically attractive. Ella was really in touch with her emotions, and she was able to kind of get some tears going. And I felt like Belmont really struggled with the fake crying. And even though I was really able to connect with him in some of his more angry, intense scenes, specifically with his dad. I felt like sometimes he was just a little off. I'm sure he'll get better for season 2 though, especially after blowing up. I'm sure he'll get into more like acting classes and stuff like that. So I would just say like it was a little like cringy at some moments just because I felt like maybe some of the writing was a little primitive. Again, I just feel like straight romances just aren't as compelling to me as like queer relationships. So it just didn't, I don't know, it took until like episode 4 to really lock me in. I would say the first 3 episodes, they're appealing, they make you blush. You're like, okay, I'll continue watching this guilty pleasure show. But episode 4 really like brings you in with the emotion and a lot of the trauma. And you're like, okay, I need to know more about these characters. So I would say the first 3 episodes are a little bit of a clunker to get through, and then again, a couple episodes near the end. And I wouldn't say the season finale is super strong. I definitely think episode 7 is probably the Thanksgiving episode, and episode 7 are the strongest episodes in this series, season 1, in my opinion. And yeah, I don't love how the season 2 or season 1 just kind of cuts off, leading us into season 2, which has already been greenlit. I feel like that cliffhanger is just so annoying because it's going to take them forever to film and get this up. Maybe it'll be up next summer. I don't know. Hopefully, with the demand, maybe they'll get it up a little bit faster. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't love the season finale episode, but I'm excited for season 2. I'm definitely going to watch it because I'm invested in these characters now. It's definitely guilty pleasure like Ginny and Georgia. I would say I'm the same level of investment just because I love the drama. Like the drama is so good. And even if it's not super well written and not necessarily my favorite type of drama, I definitely think it's just like juicy, and you have to know what happens. Like you can't just like not finish the series. I have to know if Dean and Allie get together officially. I need to know what happens with John Tucker and what happens with John Logan. I'm very compelled to see, their romances take place because I'm pretty sure each book is like each character, like kind of like Heated Rivalry, the Game Changer series, like each book is a different character in their relationship, and then they kind of like cross over in all the different books. So I hope season 2 is a little bit more Allie and Dean based because I really like their characters, and I hope the Johns get more development and maybe we'll get a little bit more romance for them. And I really don't like the whole Hannah, like the love triangle stuff going on. So I hope Hannah and Garrett stay together and John Logan is able to fall in love with somebody else and leave the pining for Hannah in season 1. So there's definitely some things I could change, definitely some criticisms. I feel like the writing, hopefully in season 2, will maybe just get a little bit stronger. Like I do think there are some pretty strongly written Prime shows, so I'm not going to say it's Prime, but yeah, a little primitive in a couple stuff, so a little cringy, but at the end of the day, I do think it really pulls at the heartstrings, and I think the stuff dealing with Hannah, and I think the stuff dealing with Garrett and their traumas and the things that they've gone through in their past is very, very compelling, and it's done very well. And there's a lot of relatability to these characters. And I think there's going to be a big fandom that grows from the books to the TV series. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see where the show goes. I am a big fan. Let me know what you guys think about Off Campus in the comments down below. I'd love to hear all your guys' thoughts and opinions. Who is your favorite character? I definitely think Dean is my favorite character, which is just so crazy because those girls did not like him in the books. So, I wonder if it's just like really like charming from Steven, but I really like Dean and I want to know so much more about him. So I'm excited to see what happens with the rest of season 2, with it being greenlit. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Make sure you are subscribed and have post notifications on so you don't miss out on any of my content going forward. When I get to season 2, I will be reviewing that and posting that here. So sure you're subscribed so you don't ever miss out on any of my content. I'm also on all the major social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, the Awards Expert app, Letterboxd, Serialized, all at Willow D. Steele. So give me a follow on those platforms and engage with my content. I'm so grateful for all of your support because it really helps to push me out into the algorithm so I can meet other like-minded folks like you guys to help join my cinema loving community. So thank you guys for all the support. Also, thank you to the subscriber who suggested I review Off Campus. If you guys have suggestions for stuff you want me to review in the future, leave that in the comments down below as well. And until my next video, remember to keep getting lost in cinema. Bye!